So, if you're off work because of a work injury, should you apply for disability? Should you apply for long-term disability, short-term disability? Today, we're going to talk about that when we dive into work comp and other laws here at Kaplan Morrell. Hi, my name is Britt Morrell, and I'm an attorney who helps people with on-the-job injuries in Colorado, and I've been doing that since 1995. And we're with Kaplan Morrell. We've got 4 fabulous attorneys who help folks. And today we would love to be able to talk with you about should you apply for long-term disability and short-term disability. Okay, and if you like this video, please hit subscribe, like, share, comment. I try to answer all the questions at least weekly, and we'd be happy to help you. And with that, let's dive into it. And we're going to talk about disability. So earlier, we had talked about Social Security disability, and we had also talked about workers' compensation disability and what those are. And I'll be happy to put in the links below for this video. In addition to that, sometimes people have disability insurance policies. And what are those? And so there are typically 2 types of disability policy. One is called long-term disability, and the other one is called short-term disability. What's the difference between the 2? Short-term disability usually covers you for a limited period of time, usually about 6 months. There's no waiting period, and they pay you for being unable to do your job. Again, it's about 6 months of benefits. It depends on the policy, etc. All you have to do is show that you can't do your regular job, and you're entitled to this disability from the insurance company. Long-term disability is a different insurance, and that is a policy that pays you for, which hopefully is obvious, a longer time than short-term disability. And long-term disability has, in general, 3 different time frames. First time frame is what's called the waiting period, which is we don't care how disabled you are, right? You may be in a coma, you're so disabled, we're not paying you anything. And that typically is about 6 months. And what do you do with those 6 months? Well, hopefully you have savings, or you have a short-term disability policy, or maybe you're getting money for disability in other sources, like, for example, workers' compensation, okay? And then so that's period number 1. Period number 2, you should look at your policy to see how long that period is and what is the definition of disability. Now, typically the definition of disability for that initial period of disability, which is stage 2, that definition of disability is you've got some sort of medical condition that prevents you from doing the position you were doing when you were last working, okay? So you can't go back to the old specific job you were doing when you became disabled. How long does that last? It could last a year, it could last 2 years, where they being the long-term disability insurance company, is agreeing to pay you for not being able to go back to your old job for about 2 years, okay? Whatever that period is, it's gonna follow period number 3, okay? Period number 3 could be after the first 2 years of disability, but typically what happens is the standard of the definition of disability changes. And now it's not just, can you go back to doing your old job, but can you go back to not only doing your old job, but any other job that you used to do, or any other job that you are capable of doing given your education, your background, and your experience. And so it's a harder period to qualify for. And the hope is that if you become disabled because of a work injury, you get your workers' compensation for being off work. And then once you are no longer entitled to that benefit because you've been placed at maximum medical improvement, you can start doing the long-term disability. And you can take those 2 years, let's hope, and be able to retool, retrain, re-educate, do some rehabilitation, etc., so that when that period ends, maybe you can go and do something else. Or maybe you're so disabled, you even qualify for disability during those periods of times, okay? So bottom line is, that's what short-term disability is and long-term disability. Now, how does it mesh in with workers' compensation? Well, the biggest question that I usually ask my clients is, who paid for the premium? Who paid for the premium? That's important, because if my client, the injured worker, paid for the premium, no issues. If the employer paid for the premium, then there might be some issues in terms of the employer. If they are having to pay money for you being off work through workers' compensation, they get to reduce what they pay in workers' compensation for what you get in long-term disability. So it's almost, you're not getting anything more. Okay. But if it's half and half, like if you paid half the premium, the worker, your employer paid the other half of the premium, then they only get to reduce your workers' compensation by one half of the long-term disability policy. Bottom line is, if you are an injured worker in Colorado and you're facing this issue, you've got to talk with an attorney to see if it even makes sense to apply for long-term disability, because sometimes it'll make sense to apply for long-term disability here, but not here. And you just need to get some very particularized information on the facts of your specific case to do it. So in terms of workers' compensation, the number one question I have is, who paid the premium? If you paid the premium, great, no problem, go get it, because workers' compensation can't reduce what they pay based on what you get for long-term disability. If your employer paid for the entire premium, probably doesn't make sense to apply for long-term disability until you're no longer eligible for wage loss under workers' compensation. Okay. And if it's a mix, again, same thing. It might be better to wait and see. It depends on when those things happen. Hopefully, as you understand, these things can be really fact dependent. I would have a lot of questions for you if you came in. So if you or someone you know or love is injured on the job in Colorado, let them know about Kaplan Morrell. We are a firm that has been helping injured workers in Colorado since 1995. We would love to help you. We offer free consultations. They're confidential, they're free. And if we decide that we can help you and you want us to help you, we charge what's called a contingent fee contract, which is 20%. And we don't get paid unless you get paid. But again, if you have any questions about this, call us at 970-356-9898 or text us at the same number. You can WhatsApp us, you can do comments or questions down below. And as always, thank you for spending part of your day with me today, and safe travels. Bye.